If you have read the Hunger Games trilogy, me saying that I sympathize with Haymitch Abernathy does not sound taboo. We know his story and it's heartbreaking. I mean, who wouldn't have their heart ache for all he's endured? But let me take you back to the beginning of the first book, when Peeta and Katniss are on the train following the reaping and they stand up to Haymitch. After a passive bit of advice, stay alive, Peeta shatters his glass of spirits and Katniss drives a knife right in between his fingers. Haymitch, surprised, remarks that he actually has a pair of fighters this year. When you first read this story, you're still not quite sold on him at this point, right? But upon rereading it this year, something else bothered me. Why now? I mean, sure, he probably really tried to mentor in the beginning, but after watching kid after kid get mauled, there's a reason he drinks. But surely he's had some fighters before. I know, Katniss and Peeta are special, and that's the whole point of the story, but still, this isn't just, okay, you guys seem like you can fight well, I'll try. It's genuine hope. He really lights up. Why? Because I hypothesized that not only had the seeds of the rebellion already been planted, not only had Haymitch already known about it, but that this was the moment Haymitch said, I'm in. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice and welcome to Hunger Games month. It is very fitting that I have it kind of dark and drab in here and it is pouring rain outside, so if you hear rain, that's why. Gotta love Florida. So Haymitch and the rebellion. If you're like me, you naively assumed that the seeds of this rebellion were planted when Katniss volunteered for her sister Prim. That it was at this moment that those in some place of power within the capital who did not agree with the games, the capital in general, or President Snow, had their ears perk up and they started paying attention as a flicker of hope ignited within them. As Katniss's obvious strength and defiance persisted, conversations began with those that they knew probably shared similar feelings and upsets. In secret, of course. Could I have been any more naive? First of all, a rebellion like this takes several years of conversations, connections, and planning. Between Plutarch making his way to being head game maker, all the way to establishing communication with District 13, that takes years of meticulous planning, mostly from the standpoint of trying to keep it secret. The idea that Katniss volunteering for Prim planted the seed is preposterous. I realize this now. Was she the spark, the one who ignited this hope? Sure, for the districts. But for those in a position of power who had been working at this for a while now, Katniss did not plant the seed. But she did give them the green light to move forward. She was the final piece of the puzzle. She didn't plant the seed, but she watered it. She's young, a fighter, relatable concerning her sister and living through the games, and good looking to boot. Does that make her a pawn? Kind of. Moves and counter moves. We've read the final book. Even though many were genuinely kind to her, she was still a necessary piece. Some cared for her, but for others she was a means to an end, like President Coin, who's just as bad as Snow. Hence her finally understanding what Peeta meant when he said, I just don't want to be another piece in their games. It goes both ways now. But my point in all this being, there were far too many moving parts for Katniss to be what started everything. Seems pretty obvious now, don't know why I didn't realize this sooner. So what's up with Haymitch then? Why was I even talking about him? The thing is, I think he was asked a long time ago to help in the fight. This is something only those who read the books know, but because of how Haymitch won his games, the second quarter quell, he was already seen as a rebel and a strong asset. For those who have not read the books and don't know, Haymitch won his games by essentially slapping the capital in the face. During his games, there was double the amount of players, and when he had ran to the edge of the arena, he discovered that if you threw something over the edge, there was this weird force field that brought it right back up and over. So after Haymitch discovered this, it was what he used to win his games. There was a girl coming after him that had already ripped his guts open and they were all hanging out, and she threw an axe at him. He ducked, it went over the edge, sprang back up, and landed square in her head. And he won laughing. But because the capital, particularly its government, was furious with Haymitch for how he won the games by essentially mocking them, they killed his mom, brother, and girlfriend. Thus, he was used as an example to every victor after. Defy us, we kill those you love. So between his own game, losing those he loves, and now having to try and mentor kids that he knows are probably all going to die because it's District 12, yeah, he gave up and took up drinking. So though I believe he was approached long ago about trying to join in the revolution, he saw no reason to do it and had no willpower to help. This is where my sympathy begins to become taboo. While drunkenness is wrong, I understand what led him to this point, and why even maybe when it seemed all the pieces were coming together, there was no way he was going to get involved in a revolution no matter how smart and helpful he may have been. You might say he had nothing left to lose, but he knew others did. But he must have kept this in the back of his mind. And that's why when he sees the massive potential between Katniss and Peeta, a fire of hope sparked within him. He most likely was being somewhat kept up to date about at least some of the inner workings going on for the revolution. But it was seeing the fire of these two that made him realize there was genuinely a chance. I do think he mostly wanted Katniss, however, because of her volunteering for Prim. Finding out Peeta loved her just added more perfect fuel. He knew that between Prim and Peeta, he could get the citizens of the capital eating out of the palm of their hands. Out of Katniss's hands, with the massive help of Peeta being so likable. All this to say something super simple. The rebellion started long ago. Haymitch was asked long ago, but he saw no point in trying to help. Not until Katniss and Peeta came into the picture, and that's why his reaction seems so strong. I did wonder, however, if maybe Haymitch actually got involved after the first games, seeing as how they relinquished and let both Peeta and Katniss win. But his reaction was just too strong. The way he lit up was just too much for it to be anything else. He had to already know. Because for someone who was in a stupor that long, that inebriated and numb, a pair of fighters was not going to make too much of a difference in him. Because who cares if one may win? Doesn't change anything. Not unless he knew there was a bigger part they could play. And that's when Haymitch joined the rebellion. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I know several aspects about it probably seemed really obvious, and it's crazy to think that after 11 read-throughs of this trilogy, I'm still finding things to analyze, even if, again, they were obvious. There are several aspects about this series that I'm sure are plain as day to those who are avid readers, but for those who don't know, I didn't really get into enjoying reading until I read this trilogy when I was 16, 17 years old, so I was a little bit behind, and I've never been pretty good at reading comprehension. College fixed that for me. Being a theater major, I had to read and analyze a ton of literature and plays, and that helped me so much. If you enjoyed this video, please consider joining the geekdom, as we call it, by subscribing. I also make other content, usually Zelda, but also a lot of How to Train Your Dragon, Harry Potter, Marvel, Animal Crossing, although quite a few of those I haven't touched on in a long time, but you can see all the playlists somewhere on my channel. Thank you, as always, to each and every one of my patrons, especially those in the highly interior, Joking Batman and Coden Data. Y'all support, it's amazing. Thank you so much. But anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.